Good morning, Ruth Muster Bulldogs.
Morning, Bulldogs.
Hallback and Poortman here, doing a little physical distance exercise, and
About 6 feet apart.
yeah, and we're gonna ride along the Pacific Electric Trail and show you guys some of Rancho Cucamonga's history that we drive by and never notice.
Little known fact: Mr. Hallback is a history major, super knowledgeable, and he's going to give you all the information on local sites that you might find interesting, and if you feel like it, maybe you and your family can safely get out to when it's not crowded and check it out for yourself.
Yeah, hopefully it comes off well.
All right, guys.
Hey, we're on the trail. We made it to our first stop on our Rancho exercise history tour.
Still 6.5 feet away from Tommy.
6.5 feet away. We're right at where Vineyard turns into Carnelian on the bike trail, the Pacific Electric bike trail, and our first stop. All right, so if you look closely, we're on the bike trail right now. If you look up, that's the bike trail heading back towards Ruth Muster ways. And I'll pan slowly so you don't get sick. There's Poortman on the trail, and that trail goes through Upland and ends in Claremont. So we're back to the Rains house, but this spot here, I don't know if you can see through the fence there, there's two different types of bricks. There's bigger bricks and then little bricks. And the reason there's little bricks is this section of the house was kind of had to be rebuilt a little bit because there was a bulldozer going to tear down or knock down the house because it was just sitting empty. A social studies teacher from Cucamonga Junior High School, now CMS, would take her classes on a walking field trip because CMS is just up the street, and to teach them the history of Rancho Cucamonga and the John Rains house. And they happened to come on the day that the bulldozer was here, and they convinced the bulldozer to stop, called his boss, and I mean, this was before cell phones, so it probably took a while. They you know, joined hands together, like I said earlier, and like a student protest, and got them to stop the destruction. And it got in the papers and everything, and it ended up, they were able to save the house and turn it into a museum. So student activism and everything helped save the Rains house. At sort of the front of the Rains house, this is where John Rains lived. He bought Rancho Cucamonga, the Rancho Cucamonga, back in the late 1850s for, I've heard, prices anywhere from $8,500 to $16,000. Now, from his front door right there, his front yard would go all the way down to the 10 freeway, way down there. His side yard going to the east went all the way to the 15 freeway. His backyard to the top of those mountains. His side yard went to the Claremont Upland border. That was his whole property. The house we're looking at, he had built in 1859, 1860. He moved in 1861. And it was the first brick building, fired brick building in San Bernardino County. And it had multiple bedrooms. It had a special room for the traveling priests that would go from mission to mission. It was a cultural hub for this area. And interesting enough, some of you Muster students who came to us in 6th grade came from a school, Doña Merced. Doña Merced was John Rains' wife, and in 1870 she taught school in the front room. We can kind of see right on the corner. That was, she set up classroom and taught the workers' children and her children school, and it's part of the reason why Doña Merced is named Doña Merced.
Makes sense.
And That's the Rains house. Every year they do like a Christmas, and it's decorated at Christmas. And
Do they still do that?
well, they used to. I've been to it once, and everybody dresses up in period. It's furnished with antiques, and there's some pretty cool stories. And it is a direct link to how people lived in Rancho Cucamonga well over 100 years ago.
Tom, now that you've given the video, the students, that information, go back and tell him your personal family connection to how it was saved, now that the classroom that was here in the protest.
Oh yeah. How I talked earlier, that class from Cucamonga Junior High, CMS, came and stopped it. My sister-in-law was in that class, and granted, this was in the early 70s, so it was all kumbaya, and they all held hands in front of the building to stop the bulldozer type thing. I'm sure now the teacher would probably be in trouble for doing that. I don't know. Anyway, we have this historical marker, and it's actually pretty cool when you think about it. And hopefully you find it interesting.
It's a museum, actually. When this is all over, you can get in there for a small donation and walk around and check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.